Window World is proud to present Kevin Keatsman Has Issues. Simply the best for less at windowskansascity.com.
It's supposed to be a pretty good day in the NFL when you are a 15.5-point favorite and you cover the spread. Your quarterback throws for 320 yards, and you improve to 9-2 on the season. But expectations for the Kansas City Chiefs are so outrageously high amongst most Chiefs fans. Sunday's win over the Rams, 26-10, left a little to be desired. There was some sloppy play. Patrick Mahomes with an ugly interception in the end zone, and another muffed punt. Chiefs have got to shore that up, no question about it. But as I mentioned, there was plenty of good on this day. Travis Kelce got his 12th touchdown of the season. That's a career best. Mahomes, over 300 yards again. Now he's averaging 8.1 yards per attempt. That is a full yard more than last year. So much for the Chiefs' offense going backwards. What was ailing them on this Sunday? Getting into the end zone. Missed opportunities, first and goals, not converted into touchdowns. Against a better opponent, you could easily see this would have been trouble for the Chiefs. But the Rams are no longer a good opponent. The defending Super Bowl champs are anything but contenders. Their season spiraling out of control. Matt Stafford not playing on this day. Kansas City's defense holding the Rams to 198 total yards, getting 3 sacks, 2 takeaways. It was fantastic. Carlos Dunlap with a tip pass that was picked off by Nick Bolton. Seemed like everybody contributed at some point. Nobody more than Chris Jones, who didn't just sack the quarterback and get free Big Macs for Chiefs fans. When he got sack number 10 on the season, it's good for a $1.25 million bonus for Chris Jones. Suffice to say, he had a good Sunday. But what really shined in this game was the young players. Trent McDuffie at corner, outstanding. George Karlaftis pick up a sack in this game. Isaiah Pacheco now is the top running back for the Chiefs. And as you saw the aging old Rams, who put together a championship team by getting old veteran players and getting that one magical season, we see why the NFL is so difficult to sustain excellence. If you get old, you lose. The Chiefs have gotten younger, way younger over the last year, and it really showed on Sunday. How young are the Chiefs? Patrick Mahomes has only 3 teammates left from his first year as Chiefs quarterback. 3. That's 49 new players since Mahomes took over at quarterback. That is the way you run an NFL franchise. You get younger and younger. Patrick Mahomes on this Sunday on the pregame show on Fox saying he feels like the old man in there now. There's so many young players in there. It was really, really, really a good sign and a good day. It was not everything the Chiefs fans wanted. It wasn't always pretty, and we can certainly see there's a lot to improve and to work on, and potential problems down the road if the Chiefs don't figure some of those things out. But my goodness, they're sitting atop the AFC. Miami and Buffalo are 8-3, right behind the Chiefs. And Baltimore loses on this day, so does Tennessee. Cincinnati and the Jets, they all fall to 7-4, 2 games back of the Chiefs, who have to keep the pedal to the metal. They just got to keep winning because Miami and Buffalo seem to do a lot of that. Of course, they'll play each other again, and that will help the Chiefs with one of those opponents. Pretty darn good day. Chiefs continue to roll. No giant or serious injuries. L'Jarius Sneed went out of the game for a short period of time, but came back. So all in all, you don't make excuses or apologize for winning 26-10 in the NFL, even if you were supposed to dominate Bryce Perkins, who clearly was in over his head as quarterback for the Rams. We'll also get into college football with Stan Weber as he joins us in just a little bit. Kansas State is headed to the Big 12 championship game Saturday in Dallas, 11 a.m., against TCU. Many, many fans across the country are rooting for the Wildcats to knock TCU out of the college football playoff. The early line on this game is TCU favored by 2.5 points. This looks to be a very, very good game on Saturday between the surging Wildcats, who clearly have found their quarterback now in Will Howard and dominated Kansas on Saturday night with a 20-point win over the Jayhawks. K-State was really good in this game, especially the difference between the two teams in special teams. At one point, the Jayhawks just decided to give up and start fair catching kickoffs. They didn't want any part of the K-State special teams, and this was a big difference in this game. Quarterback play for Kansas State was outstanding. The special teams for K-State, really, really good. And after a rough first quarter and a half, K-State's defense against a Kansas offense and Jalen Daniels, who looked really good early on in this game, Kansas State played the last 35 minutes of this game. That's the end of the second quarter and the entire second half, giving up only 6 points. That's outstanding defense. That's their calling card. The Wildcats don't play 60 minutes of great defense all that often, although they have. They shut out Oklahoma State, held Baylor to 3. They've done that. There's a trend of making adjustments in-game, figuring an opponent out, and then stopping them. That's a reflection on the coaching staff. Chris Kleiman and his team got it done. They deserve to be there. It looked really, really grim a few weeks ago when they lost to Texas, but the Wildcats went out from there. They are 9-3, 7-2. Kansas awaits a bowl selection. And I don't know what everybody's waiting for on this one. It seems easy to me. It should just be KU, MU, and the Liberty Bowl. Why wouldn't it be? Let them play each other. I see a few sites that are predicting that, but others that simply aren't. Maybe the schools don't want it. Maybe it doesn't line up with the conference philosophy on where each team should go and whether that should be the bowl game. But to me, in a perfect world, this would be the easiest thing ever. If that happens, of course, Missouri would end its season with its two rivals. They beat Arkansas on Friday. Brady Cook with 242 yards passing and a touchdown in this game. He also ran for $138 in a score. Missouri's defense really toughened up and got physical in the fourth quarter, and Ole Mizzou wins at 29-27 over Arkansas, as all three of the teams I just mentioned are 6-6. KU, Missouri, Arkansas, all 6-6, all bowl eligible, and wouldn't it be fun if Missouri played KU in a bowl game? Stan Weber will break it all down for us on our football feast, brought to you by Cornerstone Property Management and Home Buyers. The website is homewithcornerstone.com. If you've got a rental property and you're tired of the headaches of collecting rent, making repairs, or managing the thing because of your busy schedule, have Cornerstone manage it for you. Homewithcornerstone.com. That's homewithcornerstone.com. Cornerstone also puts life back into tired homes. If you've got a house that's become a burden, they'd love to help you get free of that burden and make the house a home again for a new family. You know, we like saying at Cornerstone, we don't think your house is ugly. We'll buy the house and we'll fix it. Flip it for you and take it off your hands. If you'd like to unload a home, do it with Cornerstone Property Management. Log on homewithcornerstone.com. That's Cornerstone Property Management and Home Buyers. Homewithcornerstone.com. Earth Effects Outdoor. This is a great landscaping company, and Hardscapes. Make a plan to spend more time outdoors at your home this spring with outdoor living, like an outdoor fire pit, a bar, a water feature, an outdoor kitchen. They build it all. Landscape beds, retaining walls. This is a great company. Daniel Hanks and his team have been in business over 25 years. They work anywhere in the Kansas City area, and they do regular landscaping and maintenance as well. If you'd like to get a plan for this spring, log on to eeoutdoor.com. That's Earth Effects Outdoor Living, eeoutdoor.com. 25 years experience. They'd love to build a hardscape for you in your backyard. And as always, with every sponsor that we have, you can find them at the KK List. That's theKKList.com. TheKKList.com. We even had a gentleman from the Netherlands go to the KKList.com and find Finch Knife Company. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. And what'd he get? The new reciprocity. Yeah, that's a clever name for it. Revenge is a very, very dangerous motivation, says John Clark in Clear and Present Danger. But it's also the motivation for reciprocity, the new collection of pocket knives at Finch Knife Co. Online at finchknifeco.com or check them out at Shields in Overland Park. Online at finchknifeco.com. Keep life from getting dull. Life is never dull when we're talking about football, especially the Chiefs in first place. And all three of our area schools headed off to either a championship game or bowl games. Stan Weber's about to bring it. Hit it!
The KK Has Issues conversation is presented by Roberts Robinson Chevrolet Buick GMC. Shop, click, drive at robertsrobinson.com.
Well, if your Thanksgiving feast wasn't enough, we've got the football feast with Stan Weber, and so much to discuss as the Chiefs knock off the Rams to get to 9-2 on the season. Hello, Stan. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Sunny, beautiful Kansas City day. Finishing off November here, and man, Thanksgiving week is so much fun. There are so many sports to follow, so much food. I love if you get a chance to do some shopping or get Friday off. Then you got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Just so much fun. I always like it, and I was in the Grand Cayman Islands for part of the week as well, so it's hard to anything but joy and sun in my world.
Well, it was pretty good for everyone but KU fans. They lost a basketball game and a football game, but it's not all bad. Kansas is headed to a bowl game. We'll get into the college scenarios in a bit as K-State's getting ready to play in the Big 12 title game. But we started the podcast today, Stan. My thoughts on this game were pretty simple. I don't need to go into any great detail. We're a little spoiled as Chiefs fans. I mean, they're 9-2. Mahomes threw for 320, and nobody's happy with the way the team played. I guess that's just where we are with the Chiefs these days?
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, you are competing against yourself and everything in life. I mean, I know what drives your listeners, right? You just try to do your best every day, and it doesn't matter if you're in first place by 10 units or if you're in last place by 3 units. You just keep fighting. That's the best you could do. So under that scenario, you could say, hey, let's play our best all the time. But if you just put it into an NFL terms, it was just fine. There are plenty of games when you play 16 or now 17 games where you're just not going to have your best effort. You're going to have a fumbled muff punt early in the game. Stuff like that is going to happen. Mahomes is going to throw maybe his worst interception ever, hitting the guy right in the numbers in the end zone with a nice, easy toss that you or I could have caught. Those things happen, but you got to look at the record and you got to look at where you are and your health and those kind of things. And so Chiefs are in great shape. This game was over. Right after the muff punt, the Rams didn't do anything. Game over. Their quarterback should be playing at Virginia, not in the NFL. I mean, he just doesn't threaten you at all. And sometimes a backup quarterback can get a little spark, do something. That was not the case. Cooper Kupp is a super wide receiver. They didn't have any good receivers. They had an inexperienced quarterback. They don't have good running backs. End of game. Chiefs are going to win. So I don't put much value in anything that happened, Kevin. The Chiefs knew it. They knew they were going to win. They tried to celebrate another day in Arrowhead. You never take those for granted when you're a Kansas City Chiefs football player. You try to honor that. You're lucky to play 8 games this year in the regular season at home. They did that. They played with effort, but it wasn't pretty. But they knew they were going to win. This is a non-factor. This game was thought to be going in, Kevin. I want to pat you on the back. This is one thing that I hear only you say, no one else, and even I have not joined you into this comment. So this is a Kevin Keatsman special, okay? When you look at the off season and you get the schedules out, man, you go down the schedule. It is so much fun. But then people talk about how hard schedules are or are not. And you're the only one that says what happened last year in the NFL has nothing to do with what's going to happen in the NFL this year. And by the end of the year, you definitely don't know who's going to be good or bad. So don't tell me it's a hard schedule or an easy schedule. I'm not listening. You've done that consistently, and this game is the feature Kevin Keatsman statement fulfiller. Because this is the number 2 game, Kevin, starting the year. This is the second was the one you had to look forward to as a neutral NFL fan. And Super Bowl champions Rams at Arrowhead only happens once every 8 years. Rams at Chiefs is a feature game, probably the second most hyped game going into the year, and it was just another dud game, no big deal. How can that happen? You're right. You just cannot project in off-season what's going to happen the next year.
Yeah, let's not even talk about the 4 games they have against the Broncos and Raiders that we thought were going to be murderers row, and they're not going to be. Clearly, the Broncos in complete and utter disarray. So, yes, the schedule getting easier, but it doesn't get any easier this week. The Chiefs are going to play the Bengals. Now, you like the Bengals. I know you like the Bengals, but I don't think you're in love with the Bengals. Cincinnati is now 7-2 since starting the season 0-2, and they get a big win on Sunday. They're hot. They were in the Super Bowl last year. They beat the Chiefs. They've been tough on the Chiefs. What do you make of this matchup this week?
Yeah, this is a legitimate matchup. It's not do or die for the Chiefs, but you still, when we talk about competing against the best, we also can talk about, in football terms, we've had our eyes up to the Northeast the whole time. That number 1 seed in the battle with Buffalo, right? You've got to respect that. If you lose a tiebreaker to the Bengals, what happens if they got hot and could knock you off? So it's an important regular season game in the NFL, a lot to play for, but it's not a disaster. The Chiefs got the AFC West. They're going to have to beat teams like the Bengals in the playoffs. It's going to be dangerous. But for the psychology of the football team, it's probably about time to get it done, right? I mean, you lost to the Bengals twice in regular season last year. They took care of Buffalo in the playoffs. They lost to Buffalo in the regular season last year. Then the Chiefs beat them in the playoffs, lost to them this year in the regular season. And where do you think the psychology of that is, Kevin? Chiefs are fine. It's like, hey, bring it on, Buffalo. We'll beat you in the playoffs. But if the Bengals beat them for a third straight time with Joe Burrow as the quarterback, you can start having a psychological effect that you don't want to have. And mostly it's confidence from the Bengals, right? They're not sure what they are because they are not an established program. Doing it one time, like the Rams did it, does not mean you're going to do it the next year. Look at the Rams this year. It's not easy staying up at that level. And the Bengals have been bouncing around. They're not there like they were at the end of last year. They're not that dangerous, but they're not far away. They just need a little more confidence. And a win over the Chiefs could make the Bengals equal with the Buffalo Bills about a team that's going to be hard to beat in the playoffs. So in that sense, a fun game, a big game for the Chiefs is not do or die. I'm not going to be down on what the Chiefs can do this season or their prospect of winning the Super Bowl, all that after this game. But in their hearts, when they turn it on, when Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce kind of get mad and say, we're going to do it now, they expect results. And they're at that point with the Bengals. They're like, let's go. This is too many losses. You beat us in a championship game last year. Patrick Mahomes, when he was asked about it after the game, he had a stern look on his face, not the kind of joyful, fun-loving guy at the podium. It was like, I played awful in the second half. He knows it, and it's time to turn it around. So big opportunity, at least psychology-wise, to win this ball game and set the Bengals back down. In the worst position you can put the Bengals in, the better, Kevin, because I do think they're going to be a nasty team to try to beat in the playoffs.
Well, the Bengals do one thing better than anybody in the NFL, and if they're not going to call the penalties in this league, and they do not like to call this penalty, you might as well take advantage of it. Bengals wide receivers are the best I've seen anywhere in this league, and they did it again Sunday against the Titans. They were very effective 2 or 3 times, including a long touchdown pass at offensive pass interference. They just shove the cornerbacks, get them out of the way. They've got big physical receivers, jump up, catch the ball, and officials are just, I don't know, Stan, and it's not just pro football, it's all football. It's almost like the officials are coached to not call offensive pass interference, and nobody's better at the Bengals than creating space by pushing off.
Yeah, and then Joe Burrow will throw it into coverage more than anybody else as well. So he is completely confident, and they'll get their share of defensive pass interference calls by just throwing the ball up. So they throw the ball upfield, downfield, attack better than anybody in the NFL, Kevin. They are looking from the 15 to 25-yard range to throw the ball. Most NFL teams are looking about 7 to 12 yards and get a little run after catch, or they'll throw a ball, right? Their deep throwing game is a deep post or a long fly pattern. The Bengals, they're throwing comebacks, deep dig routes. They are dominating in the 15 to 20-yard range, and they'll throw back shoulder throws and put it on a line and just say, you're big and strong, you'll shove, you won't get called, and if they accidentally grab your wrist on your one hand, they'll call pass interference. So the Bengals really do those things well, Kevin. It is dangerous. The downfield passing game, the way Joe Burrow throws, the way those guys are big and strong, and the way they attack the ball, you're going to see more defensive pass interference calls than offensive, guaranteed. They just do not call that. That's the philosophy, and it's been that way. Wow. We're going on 25, 30 years where they just say offensive players kind of get to do anything they want except for what? They're not letting one guy pick for the other. That's the one they're calling. If you're the outside receiver, you go in and bump into the inside defender so the slot receiver can switch places with you. They'll call that every time on the offense. But otherwise, when the ball is in the air and you're downfield, they don't call offensive pass interference hardly ever.
Yeah. All right, a final thought on Sunday's game, then we'll move on and talk about a lot of the goings-on in college football because there's just a ton of things to talk about here. I thought if there was ever a week that you give a game ball to the general manager or the personnel staff, maybe this was that game, because looking at the Rams, who clearly put together an old football team to try to win one Super Bowl, and the Chiefs and all these young players, and we saw them contribute in a big way on Sunday. McDuffie was terrific. Karlaftis had a sack. Pacheco's become the number one running back. We're seeing it all over the place with these younger players. I just think it's a powerful statement of how you run your team compared to the way other teams in this, like they all know they're supposed to get younger. I don't know why other teams can't do it. Patrick Mahomes only has 3 teammates left on this roster from his first year, Stan. He's got 48 teammates that are newer than him. I mean, this is crazy what they've done with this roster, and I thought it was just kind of an example of if you were ever going to pat the personnel department on the back, I think Sunday was it.
Yeah, good point, Kevin, with Brett Veach. The turnover in the NFL is normal. even with a Patrick Mahomes statement. That's how quickly it turns over in the NFL. But that doesn't mean you're any good. To stay good and act like it's the same old Kansas City Chiefs. You see them running out on the field. You see Andy Reid over there and Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and you just think it's the same old group, And that's what happened when Len Dawson and Otis Taylor and those guys were out there. They did get old together, Kevin, and they were really good on the upward swing, awesome when they peaked out, and good on the way down. But then when they got old, Chiefs went, 15 years without good football? You don't see that in play right here, do you? I mean, look at what they have. Yeah, how do you replace Patrick Mahomes? But that's a dozen years down the road, hopefully. The other guys, they're restocking a better defensive team than they've been the last 3 or 4 years, Kevin. How about that? They're not only young and new and not too expensive on the salary cap, they're actually better players on the defensive side than they were before. So just an amazing upswing. Pacheco being the starting running back as a low-level draft choice. You're exactly right. They deserve a ton of credit, especially in 2022, because having a whole new secondary 3 years ago, I would have been saying to you, Kevin, there's no doubt Tyrann Mathieu is the straw that stirs that defensive drink. You got to have him on the field. He's a playmaker. The Chiefs aren't that great on defense, but he and Chris Jones, they're the guys that can make a difference. He's not even in the lineup, and he didn't play well last year. He was one of the problems. They get all new guys, and they're playing better than they did when Tyrann Mathieu was playing well. It's crazy. So great job, Brett Veach, Andy Reid, whatever input he has in there, and the way the organization works together from the scouting staff up to the general manager, the head coach, assistant coaches. They all have their certain level of opinions. Different programs have different levels of input from people, but the Chiefs have found the right formula. Whatever they're doing, it is working very, very well. And another thing, I got to pat him on the back again for the 1,000th time. Patrick Mahomes' contract is the perfect contract. The perfect contract. We don't need to go into the details of all that, but the way they set that up is the easiest thing to move money around in a salary cap year after year after year. He never becomes a giant burden on the team because he has so much flexibility in how they've written the contract. He deserves a lot of credit, and they deserve a lot of credit. But they gave him, $500 million in his contract. It'll end up being more when it's all said and done. But they put that thing in place so well. They deserve credit on the salary cap side with their big guy, and on the little guys like Pacheco, who doesn't cost you hardly any money. He's a contributing factor. The DB is unbelievable. You're right. I mean, this game was over. Like I said, after the muff punt, Rams didn't do anything. Game over. I texted my buddies. He goes, this is over. There's just no drama here at all. The Chiefs are going to win the game. No doubt. Don't get sad about it. Don't just be happy that your team's that good. But you're right. To focus in on the other aspects of how the Chiefs continue to do things to build for the long term is not easy to do in the NFL.
Well, there was one other game this weekend where a muffed punt ended the game, and that was when Kansas muffed a punt early, and K-State went up 7-0 after starting the game with a 3-and-out. And then Kansas State never looked back. I mean, they had this game. They led the entire way. They had control of it. They were scoring. There was a huge disparity in special teams in this game against Kansas. I just never felt in doubt to me. Some Kansas State fans were like, we wanted to whip them worse than that or whatever. I don't know. I thought it was a really nice performance by the Wildcats. I don't think K-State played its best game. I thought KU, for the better part of the first half, played very well offensively. I thought they brought a fight to K-State. They just weren't good enough. But, Stan, we've seen a trend. There's been some games this year where K-State's defense is really good. They shut out Oklahoma State. They gave up 3 to Baylor. They've had games where they haven't given up touchdowns and been really good the entire game. But I think even more impressive than that is the number of games where we've seen them struggle at some point in the game defensively and not stop their opponent, make adjustments or change in game and become really good. And that's kind of what happened Saturday night. KU scored 6 points in the last 35 minutes of this game. Kansas State really turned up the defense. What was the most impressive part of this game for you?
Well, the whole team just contributing is the impressive thing. The bounce-back ability of the offense when they get stressed. The last 2 games are much alike, okay? You got to go back to the West Virginia game on the road as well, Kevin, where West Virginia lit up the scoreboard, had 19 points at the end of the first quarter and 25 points at halftime, and it basically didn't score the rest of the way. So 2 weeks in a row, the offense attacked K-State, did a good job, had their reasons why they played well, and then K-State made the adjustments and slowed them down on defense. So Joe Klanderman's done a great job as a defensive coordinator. Kevin, you don't hear his name very much, but he's doing a fantastic job. Remember, he did not grow up knowing anything about the 3-3-5 defense. They implemented that last year. He and Chris Kleiman, who's a defensive guru. Those two guys have been together. They had an even man front. They had their philosophies on defense. It worked. They won national championships at North Dakota State. They've been good at K-State. And then they switched it all up and took a risk and said, we're going to change to what is going to work better in the Big 12 and against modern football. And now they've taught themselves so well. And that means even adjustments in game of how they adjust things. The 3-3-5 gives you a lot of flexibility because in football, it's very simple. It doesn't matter if it's a 4-3 or 3-4, Kevin. 4 guys should rush the passer when there is a pass play. If you rush a 4th guy who didn't line up at the line of scrimmage, that is not a blitz. Okay, it's not a blitz. It has to be a 5th guy. 4 guys is normal. But when you line up in a 3-3-5, that 4th guy can be safeties, cornerbacks, or those 3 linebackers, right? There's a ton of variability. And that means you can adjust. And they've done a fantastic job on the defensive side of adjusting in-game and slowing things down. Kansas's offense is very, very good. West Virginia played well after K-State scored 14 points and after K-State scored against Kansas quickly and had a nice lead. Kansas went down and said, hey, we're going to put some momentum in here. We're the underdog, and look what we just did. We drove down for a touchdown. For the Wildcats offense to respond week after week, and especially in these last 2 weeks, Kevin, when West Virginia made a great drive and said, as an underdog, this is the perfect time for us to stress you out. You punt the ball back to us and watch out. Sequencing around halftime, K-State lost a fumble before the half, Kevin. KU down by 9, got the football. They'd scored 3 touchdowns. They got the football. They're going to get the ball to start the second half. Great opportunity to sequence a game out and get tons of pressure on the K-State team, and the K-State defense put them 3 and out, and then did it one more time before halftime. But the offense, all game long, if Kansas would score, the offense would go down and score right after it. And they did that in the West Virginia game. They did that in the Kansas game. And, Kevin, for you to feel comfortable and say, I think K-State has this game in control, it took the response drive. Like arena football, when a team scores, you say no big deal because you're supposed to, in a 50-yard field, go score a touchdown yourself. K-State's giving you the confidence, Kevin, that, they'll go back down and score. KU's not that close. And sure enough, they're not. And K-State had good control of the game. So I think offensively for K-State in the last 2 weeks to look at some scoring happen and look at momentum possibly turning against them and acting like it's no big deal and going out and functioning and scoring right back at them has been the most impressive thing. But you pointed out well, the defense, it gets better during the game. K-State seems to figure it out. It's maybe the players getting used to what style they're playing, but I think it's the coaches with subtle adjustments. In a 3-3-5, it's really just an adjustment portfolio. You can do so many things differently, and it seems like they start dialing things up, finding a new way of doing it, slowing teams down. KU deserves a lot of credit. There's some guys at K-State that I see on the day of the game, right? Hours before the game, there's a group of people that I see for the first time in maybe a week, and they come up and they say, okay, got to hear it. You've done your final analysis. You looked at everything. How's this game going to go down? And what I said, Kevin, then host studied up, much more than I am on a Monday morning. Sorry to say that, but Saturday before the game, I put in all my work, kind of like a test in college. I'm ready to roll at test time, which to me is game time. And I get on there and I say, hey, KU could score 30. I mean, they're that good. They're that good on offense. If Jalen Daniels has burned off some of the rust of being out for a while in the last game, which I think he probably did against Texas, he stayed in extra to burn more of the rust off. If Jalen Daniels is himself, I could see them scoring around 30 points. The difference is you just got to go get 40. And that's kind of how it played out. Just like I thought before the game, Kansas's offense is good, Kevin. It really is good. The most yards per play. Don't talk about total yardage in the college game, Kevin. In pros, you can talk about total yardage. But in college, there's so many different number of plays between depending on how teams run their offense, huddling or not. Yards per play is the biggest thing. Here's a little thing for you to put in perspective. The most yards per play in K-State history is 6.5. 1998, Michael Bishop. You remember those boys. Mm-hmm. Most yards per play by Kansas in their history, 1950. You don't remember that, Kevin. 6.4 yards per play. How about that? They're sitting right about the same, right? 6.5, 6.4. You get your marker, Okay, you got your standard in mind. KU went into the K-State game averaging 7.2 yards per play all year, 11 games. I don't know what it is now after the K-State game, but that's how good their offense is. It's legitimate. They're doing a great job. But K-State found a way to figure it out. And I like you, after that muff punt and K-State scoring, it felt like K-State was going to win the game the whole time.
Yeah.
It felt like they can do so many. K-State's so variable. They're not great at anything, but they're good at everything.
All right, I'll continue to say Will Howard, the quarterback for Kansas State, is the biggest surprise I've ever seen at Kansas State, ever. Because we've seen him play a little bit before, but nobody thought he was this. I'm sorry. I just don't know anybody that thought that. I know you thought, okay, he sees the field. He's a smart guy. We know players get better. I just didn't think he physically had the arm for it. I just didn't think there was enough there in the arm talent. But we got into a discussion with some friends over this weekend, and I got some buddies that think he holds the ball too long in the pocket. And my response to that is, who holds the ball longer than Patrick Mahomes? I mean, sometimes it's stepping out of the pocket. It's buying time. If Will Howard is moving out and feels the pocket and isn't getting sacked right and left, and he isn't, and Adrian Martinez, I thought, held the ball a lot earlier this year, but he would just throw the ball away. He would hold it, and then just throw it away. If Will Howard is buying time and holding the ball and finding Sammy Wheeler at the 5-yard line for a touchdown, that's good football. Where do you stand on how long you hold the ball? You see any of these tendencies? Howard did have one ball stripped away from him in this game, and I think that's what got some of my buddies a little upset. I think the longer you hold the ball, the better chance you have to find somebody wide open. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy at all. Now, your buddies, I got to get a little more context. Where were you guys drinking?
No, we were not. We're watching the game.
No, they had to be drinking. There's a lot of pregame drinking to come up with these comments. Really.
I'm telling you. They're like, he holds it too long. I'm like, the longer he can hold it, the more open somebody's going to get, and he finds guys. Now, I didn't like the strip sack thing either. I didn't like the ball knocked loose, but that was your left tackle getting beat. I think it was the left tackle just got abused on that play. And then there was a great defensive play. It's going to happen. I felt like watching Howard this year, you've talked a lot about his vision down the field. I think he has a feel in the pocket for where the pressure is. I won't say he has eyes in the back of his head, but he seems to have a real feel for where it is. It doesn't bother me at all.
Explanation point. I know it's cold outside and people are drinking some heavy stuff right now to stay warm. So I don't really drink that much. So I don't know if I want to know what these guys are drinking, but you need to talk about the tailgate parties because he had one fumble, and it was because Kansas has a good pass rusher who beat K-State's left tackle. And KT Levinson is having a great year. He is playing at a level that might be first-team All-Big 12 at left tackle, but he got beat on that play. And Will Howard got stripped. That's the only time that's happened all year. I just don't – okay, let's just go – I'll just forget you said that, Jimmy. He is so good at getting rid of the ball so fast. He gets rid of the ball too fast sometimes. He sees a blitz and he rips a pass. One time, remember I told you about the time that Deuce Vaughn was running upfield and the ball just bounced against Oklahoma State, I think it was. It bounced and Deuce didn't look up in time. It's like he saw the blitz and knew what was going on and threw the ball early, and Deuce was not used to it. It's like, no one throws the ball that fast in practice. I mean, what's going on? Will's got to slow his brain down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but
coaches want to slow him down, Kevin. He makes his decisions too fast.
Well, you know how fans are. They all want him to throw it 30 or 40 yards downfield. They don't want the little quick hitter to deuce. Fans do not see quick passes. And Mahomes throws a zillion of them too, by the way, sometimes sidearm. Okay, Mahomes. But I'm talking about when you're looking for that big play, the more time you have, the better. The whole idea of offensive line play is to create a clean pocket and buy your quarterback more time and your receivers more time to get open. The longer you have to complete passes down the field, the more likely your guy's going to be wide open. And I don't even understand it. So it isn't the short passes. They want these big chunk plays. I'm like, well, look at the one where he threw to Wheeler. Look how open Wheeler was at the 5-yard line.
That's what I was going to say, Kevin. This is the perfect game to say, what are you talking about? The touchdown to Wheeler was because he held the ball, moved in the pocket from right to left, and looked downfield, and he was wide open. He caught the ball like we do when we play backyard football. Yeah. You throw the ball, and he stood there with his back to the goal line, caught it, and waited for the football. And then there was another one going left to right on your TV screen where he did the same thing and threw to Phillip Brooks upfield. So Will Howard had 2 off-script touchdown or big plays against Kansas when he held the ball, moved in the pocket, and threw the ball, and he had 1 strip sack. So this game is not the game to be talking about the issues your buddies were talking about. Sorry, I like your buddies, but this time completely off base on this. A wrong game to talk about. So Will Howard's doing just very, very fine. But that said, we cannot use the name Patrick Mahomes much because when Patrick scrambles, it is weird. It is with complete athleticism. He might scramble for 11 yards. He might throw it with behind the back pass. It's just amazing when he keeps a play alive, what he does with it. And Will Howard's not dealing like that. Okay. That'd almost be more like Adrian Martinez scrambling where, hey, I might run, I might pass, see somebody. Will Howard, he wears number 18. He likes Peyton Manning sometime in his life. He reminds me of him when he's moving in the pocket. He has 2 hands on the ball, kind of scooting through, not real fast, but his eyes are upfield. He wants to throw the ball from the pocket. Go back to the West Virginia game, Kevin. He scrambled out to the right in the red zone, and it looked like he had green grass or green turf in front of him to possibly get inside the 5, maybe to the goal line. And you knew he was going to run. And you know what he did? Threw the ball to Ben Sinnott in the back of the end zone.
Yeah.
I mean, he is scrambling to throw the ball and throw the ball upfield. So that's Will Howard's strength.
Well,
and the fact that he got stripped, he's not happy about it, Kevin. It's in his notes, and it's imprinted in his brain. And I'm going to see Will, when I see Will next, I'm going to tell him, hey, there's K-State fans that want you to triple imprint in your brain. Don't let the left tackle miss blocks ever.
All right, so Saturday it's the Big 12 championship game, Kansas State and TCU. This looks like it's going to be a terrific game. On the line here, TCU has a chance to be in the college football playoff. And I saw at 538, which is a website, and some other sites, that there's some sort of 48% chance if K-State wins that they could get into the college football playoff. This would be if USC loses, and I don't know who else has to lose. And I looked at that and I went, this is not true. I see it circulating on social media. There's no human committee that is going to allow Kansas State in the college football playoff with 3 losses over a 1-loss Ohio State team. I cannot see any realm of possibility on earth where that would ever happen. Is there any chance with a win that Kansas State is in consideration?
Well, it's the first time I thought about it, so that means it's pretty low in my mind because you're right. The committee so far has valued the name and tradition of teams very, very much in tie-breaking situations. It started that way when TCU and Baylor deserved to get in. One of the two did the first year of the college football playoff, and instead they put Ezekiel Elliott and Urban Meyer and the Ohio State Buckeyes in, right? And Ohio State won the championship, so you could argue they made a good call. I said tradition. Let's look at it another way. They look at the athletes. And they look at the athletes, and they have their people in the committee, and they're looking at the games and the stats, but they also look at the teams, and they go, oh, look at that Ohio State roster. It's full of NFL players. Or look at that Alabama roster. So Alabama's sitting there with 2 losses, and Ohio State especially with 1, Kevin, that are putting up a blockade that makes it very, very hard. So, yeah, I mean, I guess you can make it. I've never thought about it because the scenario has to be Georgia has to get beat by LSU, but does the Georgia stay in to the college football playoff if they lose a game?
I think everybody says Georgia's in. Georgia and Michigan are in, I think, no matter what happens. I think everybody's in agreement on that. I just don't see it.
If Michigan loses to Purdue. But anyway, K-State would have to blow TCU out. You know, it'd have to be 52-17, and a bunch of other things happen. Now, the college football playoff, we're not talking about that. It is somewhat interesting because a USC might lose, and Alabama's sitting there with 2 losses. Ohio State with 1. Right. There are some. It's going to be hard to decide who deserves to go in because LSU lost again. Okay, right. So it's hard to value them. But so anyway, it's going to be very, very interesting.
And by the way,
I don't think about this. It's not about that. It's not about that for K-State. You know, they're going to the Sugar Bowl.
Right. Go win the Big 12 championship. Yes.
If you win the Big 12 championship, Kevin, you tie for the second most Big 12 championships in the 27 years of Big 12 football.
Yeah.
Oklahoma's got it by a mile. But then if you win 3 championships, you tie Texas, who won them all in the first 15 years.
Yep.
You tie Texas and you tie Baylor in championships. But you become the only team other than Oklahoma to win it in all 3 phases of the Big 12. There was the original phase of division
that's right.
and championship games. K-State won one under that scenario. and in 2003. There was 6 years where you just did full round robin and said whoever's got the best record wins the championship. K-State won in that segment in 2012. And if they win in this new championship game, they would be the only team that, other than Oklahoma, that's won in each of those three styles. So big deal for K-State to go win it's hard to win Big 12 championships in any sport, Kevin. But football is the feature sport by 100. If you can get one in football, man, that is amazing.
Okay, and people aren't talking enough about TCU. Their resume is actually better than these other teams. It's crazy. They've got more ranked wins. If you look at the computer and all the metrics and everything else, it will tell you that TCU has the best undefeated record of any of them, that they've played more good teams and the whole deal. I don't know how to gauge TCU. I mean, they were amazing against Iowa State this past week, but we watched them, eke the Baylor game out. We watched them have to come from behind 28-10 against Kansas State when K-State had quarterback problems in that game and win that game. They've had some really close calls. Is TCU definitively the best team in the Big 12, or is this game about to be a battle of two teams that are very even?
It's going to be a battle. You can't disrespect a team that went undefeated. Knowing how to win close games, Kevin, is really an attribute, not a cut down. So we've got to give it to TCU that when their backs to the wall against Oklahoma State, especially against K-State, that they were able to find ways to come back. They played other close games. The Big 12 has been incredibly competitive this year. That game at SMU they played with their head coach, Sonny Dykes, who just left SMU, the Metroplex. SMU and TCU have been like twin schools for the history of college football until TCU got lucky and got to be a part of the Big 12, right? Then they separated, but he left SMU. They had to go play SMU, and they had to prove it in that game. So they played a stressful 10 games this year out of their 12. They found a way to win. But when you lay it down on paper, you come over to my house, Kevin, and we study the tape. We look at the confidence level, how they match up. Any metric you want to look at, not just on paper, but in real football terms, K-State matches up very, very well with TCU and very evenly. So I think K-State's got a big chance. Now, should it be 40 or 50? Pick your number between 40 and a 50% chance of winning. 40 at worst, 50 at best, because you got to respect TCU. TCU, the thing that they do, Kevin, is they have explosiveness that no one else in the league has. So you've got to understand that Quentin Johnson at 6'4" is such an elite receiver. It's incredible. Darius Davis is so fast. Tay Barber is so good. They've got other guys like Savion Williams, Jacorius, Spivey. These receivers are elite, but they got a great running back in Kendre Miller, and they got a quarterback in Max Duggan, who is a lot like Will Howard. He's an old school quarterback, Kevin, that wasn't the starter at the beginning of the year. He was not the starter at the beginning of the year. Chandler Morris was. But he said, I'm not transferring. I want my degree from TCU. I want to hang out with my friends and my football friends and be a part of TCU football. And no matter what you need me to do to win, let me know. Well, what they needed him to do is step up and be physical. He is a big runner. He throws great. He looks downfield and throws deep. These two quarterbacks want to hurt you throwing the ball downfield, and yet Max Duggan can run very, very well. TCU has every part of their team that's good. But here's the thing. Remember I said K-State's not great at anything? They're good at everything. I should have said except for Deuce Vaughn, who's great. So they got Deuce Vaughn and solidness across the board. Well, guess what? TCU has a deep throwing threat and solidness across the board. They are not dominant on the defensive side, Kevin. K-State can score against them just like they did in the first game. They can continue to do that. It should be a high-scoring game.
Yeah. And
just pick your number. Every listener, pick your number. If you hate K-State, pick 40%. If you love K-State, pick 50, or somewhere between a 40 and a 50% chance. That's how big a chance this is. Even though TCU deserves to be in a college football playoff if they win, Kevin, because these Michigans and Ohio States, they're not that good. The Big Ten stinks. Kevin, the Big Ten stinks. And Ohio State barely beat Northwestern, barely beat Maryland, and got whipped by Michigan. So these teams have big names, but they're not dominant. The only team that can even look in the mirror and say we're a dominant team, the only team, is Georgia.
Yeah.
Everybody else is not that much different. So bring it on. What I hope is K-State beats TCU, wins a championship. I hope K-State plays Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, and bring it on, Kevin. That's going to be a competitive game because this Alabama team is not the same as it's been in the past. College football, the elite is not much different, Kevin, than the 30th best team in the country.
And that's a good thing. That's a good thing for
it's
college
really
football.
Good. The parity is really, really good right now.
Really good.
Maybe Georgia isn't parity, right? Maybe Georgia isn't. They may be too good. But give me anybody else. Michigan, you can compete with them, Kevin. And so, Alabama would be the favorite over K-State. But this is the year to play them. I wouldn't want to play them in most of the last 10 years. But this year, that would be fun.
Go play them. All right, so the Missouri Tigers on Friday beat Arkansas, their rival. And I want to spend a little time here on KU and MU. Kansas kind of limped to the finish, man. They finished, 1-6 in their last 7 games. They had an injury at quarterback. They had issues. Missouri was a couple of players said after the game, look, we went through hell this year. We don't know if we're supposed to say that or not, but we've been through hell here. We feel like we came back. Brady Cook was terrific in this game. The defense was very good in the fourth quarter against Arkansas to get the win. And I mean, I don't know why we're not just KU and MU should be playing each other in a bowl game. This seems like the first one off the board. Let's match these two up in the Liberty Bowl and let's go play it. I mean, I'd be really excited for something like that. Missouri finished a little stronger than Kansas, but Kansas has their quarterback back. If this is going to happen, do you think it should happen? They should play each other. Will it happen? And who would you like in that matchup?
Well, I do think it should happen, and I'd love to see it. Both teams, you don't have to jigger things around. They both deserve to play in the Liberty Bowl. If you match up and look at the picks, why wouldn't they be picked? The guy who gets to decide it, though, is the power-hungry guy in all of college football, Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner. He kind of dishes out the SEC teams the way he wants. The Bulls don't come to the SEC and say, we're picking this team. That's not the way it works in the SEC. In other conferences, it is, Kevin. You go down the list, and there's certain rules, like you can't pick a team that finished 2 spots worse than another team just because you want them in your bowl game, unless they played in the bowl game last year, but it's not like that in the SEC. So what does he think about it? What does he think about if Kansas were to go to the Liberty Bowl? Will he put Missouri in there, or will the Missouri Athletic Department give him a call and say, we don't want to play Kansas. Why don't you move us to another bowl? And it's over. So the likelihood of it, man, it's a flip of a coin in my mind. I'm not sure Missouri / the SEC wants Kansas to have a chance to play against Missouri, because I think it's advantage Kansas to get that opportunity over Missouri.
Okay, and that's because KU's offense is so good?
No, I'm talking about just psychologically. KU has everything to gain. Missouri has everything to lose. I don't think Missouri wants to play Kansas. Now, when you match the teams up, it will be a lot of fun because Missouri's defense is legitimate, and the SEC fronts, Kevin, are different. They really are. Missouri's a legitimate SEC front, so they're going to cause some havoc on the Kansas offensive line, which is just okay. Think about how good an offensive coordinator Kansas has and head coach. Their offensive line, Kevin, is just average to below average Big 12, and yet they are lighting it up. So they are working around an average offensive line, doing it with great quarterback play, great design, and Devin Neal and those type of things. So Missouri will really stress Kansas and slow down their offense because of their big defensive front. But Kansas is excited. They will play hard, and I would expect a close game. I got to give a slight advantage to Missouri because I think that they're going to be able to physically keep the ball, run the ball, Brady Cook scramble, and maybe able to outscore KU. But, man, if Missouri outscoring anybody is a rare thing, right? They haven't even scored 30 points against a legitimate big-time opponent this year. So it'll be a very even game. But the question would be, could Kansas light up the scoreboard enough to stress Missouri, or will the physicality of Missouri be the difference? And you just got to respect the physicality of Missouri to start with.
All right, the bigger issue here is what you just touched on, is you don't know if Missouri would want to play this game. And look, I think when you're an athletic director at any of these schools, okay, in this case, Kansas and Missouri, if you're an AD, what I really don't like about college sports and sports in general is we've gotten to a place where the last thing anybody thinks of is the fans. And I don't understand that. And to me, this is really easy. The KU AD and the Missouri AD both ought to be on the phones with their commissioners, just pounding on them that they want this game for their fans, period. And what bowl? The Liberty Bowl would love to have them. They'll sell the thing out. My God, these bowls don't sell all their tickets. They'd love to have this matchup. I don't even understand how this is a conversation. This should be done already.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and you're right. That should happen. It should flow the other direction. If you pined for it and said you wanted it to happen, the chances of it would go up greatly, because the bowl is going to be happy as heck. So the bowl has some opinion in this, and there's rules and regulations and how they select. But the Liberty Bowl would love to see the place with KU and Mizzou drivable to Memphis on Beale Street, partying, all the restaurants and the bars and the hotels. It would be so much fun. So they're not going to be saying anything, right? And if Greg Sankey got a call from the AD from Mizzou and said, we want to play Kansas, can we work this out? I think the odds go high. You're looking at a 75% plus chance if they both want to play. But what is Missouri's stance? How much do they really believe in their finish of the season? If she really believed in Eli Drinkwitz, like she gave him a big contract, right? He just got a giant contract, Kevin, with about 3 weeks left in the season. If they believe in Missouri that much, and they look at how well they played against Arkansas and how they finished the year, then this is the way to make Missouri football exciting to the Missouri fan. It's double or nothing, maybe triple or nothing. But you're right, Kevin. If you really believe in Missouri, there's nothing that can make a Missouri fan smile about the 2022 season more than saying, we beat Arkansas, we got into college football, we got into the bowl game, and then you beat Kansas. Then you get a smile on your face. That 7-6 record is like great tasting food, right? But right now, how can you be excited? I mean, super excited about 2022. If you're a Missouri fan, it's like, yeah, it was okay. We met bare minimum. I mean, we beat Arkansas, but we got whipped by K-State, and we dumped a couple of games. And it's kind of up and down for Missouri. You beat KU, no one talks about the up and down. So I love your idea. If I'm a Missouri administrator who believes in Eli Drinkwitz, I go, bring on Kansas. This is the way a 7-6 season seems like a 9-4 season.
Yep. Think of the fans first. They just don't do it often enough. But Stan Weber does. And that's why he's on here. He loves that so many football fans listen to this podcast and hear his thoughts every Monday or after every Chiefs game. Stan, this is fun. This is a great football season we're having right now. We wish you the best with your call on Saturday with the Cats against the Horned Frogs in the Big 12 title game. Hope to run into you down there. I'll be down there with my sons, and we'll catch up. We'll definitely catch up. I'll find you somewhere in Texas this weekend. How's that sound?
It's going to have a great championship feel, Kevin, because TCU's campus 20 miles away from AT&T Stadium. So my wife is going like, gosh, don't they have like a home field advantage? I go, the problem is TCU has so few students. K-State has, 4 times more students graduating every year, and it piles up. And Dallas is a big area for K-State fans. Houston is not a bad area for K-State fans, and K-State fans will travel for a big game. So this should be close to 50-50, and that's what championship games should be like, right? When every play, there's a roar for one team or the other. A great respect from these two programs for each other, high-level football being played, and a lot at stake. Both TCU and K-State do not take championships for granted like Oklahoma might. This is a big-time game. It is an even game, and so much to gain for each of these teams, man. So hope to see you down there, Kevin. Look real closely because you're going to walk by people who are partying and having fun. You just got to look real close because they're wearing purple. So do they have a Power Cat on,
right, yeah,
or do they have a TCU on their clothes? It's going to be hard to tell who's with you and who's not. But be careful, Kevin. I want you to enjoy this game. Please take this one bit of advice. I know you can party, have fun, drink if you want. Don't drink what your buddies are drinking before the game because I want you to be very focused and able to take in this game.
No doubt. Thank you for the advice. Okay. I will heed your warning. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
All right, he is Stan Weber, and it's just terrific. We really appreciate his time, and he's so good at breaking all this down. We've got an incredible football season unfolding right now, and I know that I'm a little overexcited about this, but Missouri and Kansas have to play each other. I'm going to be so frustrated if the people who run college athletics don't allow this to happen. And I'm not pointing at either school here. All right, we have conferences as well, and he mentioned Greg Sankey, and the Big 12 has a new commissioner. I don't even know how this is a discussion. They're both 6-6. They can play in a place that's close to home where you can drive it and play this thing. It's what bowl games should be. I just don't understand how there's even a discussion on this thing. It should have been the first bowl done. Memphis, KUMU, done. That one's out. Scratch that one out. We'll figure everybody else out later. It should just be over. But I'm telling you, people in athletics do not think of the fans first anymore. They used to. That's all it was about. And they just don't do it anymore. Stan Weber's great. Stan Weber's appearance brought to you by 360 Document Solutions, online at 360documentsolutions.com. Dump those expensive copiers with HP Toner and get a new deal with 360 Document Solutions. They'll even get you out of your old leases on your equipment. For a complimentary analysis of all your document technology or IT programs, contact Mark at 360 Document Solutions, 913-745-5344. Dr. Bill Bush at NKC Dental, online at nkcdental.com. He's an award-winning dentist, and he's the dentist to the Chiefs. So why not have him be your dentist? 2 offices in the Northland and Westwood, online at nkcdental.com. Advanced medical imaging, MRI, and CT scans outside those expensive, time-consuming hospital chains. Online at medimageks.com. Why wait? Find out what's inside. All major insurance is accepted. Healthcare in the big systems can be a big mess. Put your healthcare in your own hands with advanced medical imaging. Get your CT or MRI today, or sign up for the heart scan. Get your plaque score. It's out of pocket, but it's only like $80 at Advanced Medical Imaging. Online at medimageks.com. And, of course, Tim Cross and my friends over at Cross Kitchens KC. Many of you have called Tim and said, hey, let's take a look at our kitchen. Let's take a look at this bathroom. Let's take a look at this man cave. Can we remodel? Can we make this happen? What can you do for us? CrossKitchensKC.com. See their entire portfolio of the great work that they do. And wouldn't you want to have the owner on your job? I would. That's why I go with CrossKitchensKC.com. So much football and so much more. On Monday night, I will be at Cincy's, if you're listening to this on Monday, with Mike Thompson, the state senator from the great state of Kansas, from Shawnee, with the Northeast Johnson County Republicans. They've asked me to MC an event there this evening. Everybody's welcome. You don't need a reservation. They have great Italian food at Cincy's, and usually about 150 people are there. It's kind of a conservative think tank. If you want to come out tonight and say hello, I'd love to see you there. So join us. The program will start at about 6:30, as I understand it. Dinner begins, if you want to eat, anytime 6 o'clock or after. I'll be getting there about 6, and we should have some fun talking a little politics tonight at Cincy's in Overland Park. It's the Northeast Johnson County Republicans. Mike Thompson will be there, and we'd love to have any of you out on this Monday evening if you'd like to come out and say hello. So we look forward to that. And, of course, we'll have all kinds of news and politics podcasts coming up later this week as we get back into the real swing between the holidays, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, get back into the full schedule, and hopefully create some content here that you really enjoy and you will share with your friends. Don't forget to hit that like or follow or subscribe button. It's free. Tell your friends about it. Help us out with the podcast. And most of all, thanks for listening to Kevin Kietzman Has Issues.
Thanks for listening to Kevin Kietzman Has Issues, presented by Roberts Robinson Chevrolet Buick GMC. To get exclusive patrons-only podcasts, receive a weekly newsletter, and attend in-person patrons-only parties, visit kkhasissues.com and become a patron today. This has been a production of Crooked Tail Media Incorporated.